Good morning, everybody. I'm Myra Ansari here for WAVE. Now it is a little after 10 o'clock here on your Thursday morning. We are going live to U of L today, where Senator Mitch McConnell is going to be speaking today about legislation that includes new disaster relief funding to help Eastern Kentucky recover from the summer's floods. They're getting started, so let's jump in and listen.
Good morning and welcome to the University of Louisville on an absolutely beautiful day in Kentucky. It's an honor for me to introduce our special guest today, Senate Leader Mitch McConnell. Leader McConnell has deep roots at this university and in the community. He came to U of L as a student in the 60s. He majored in, can you guess, political science in the College of Arts and Sciences, and he also served as student president of the college. As a U of L alumnus, the senator has made so many impactful contributions to his alma mater. One of the most significant is the establishment of the McConnell Center in 1991. But we also must note and must mention that across his career, he secured nearly $400 million in federal funding for our university. So we salute him for making U of L such a high priority. As we all know, Senator McConnell is the longest-serving Senate Republican leader in the history of the United States and only the second Kentuckian to serve as Majority Leader in the U.S. Senate. His dedication to our university, our community, and our country is impressive. We thank Senator McConnell for his long and distinguished career as a public servant and the impact he's had on Kentucky and on U of L. Leader McConnell, we are so glad you're a Cardinal, and we welcome you home once again to U of L. Thank you.
Well, let me start by saying most of the people who are here in the press world are probably mostly interested in what I do as leader of my party in the Senate. But today I want to focus on a different part of my job. You know, I got elected to the Senate from Kentucky. And I've tried over the years, even as I ended up in a leadership position, not to forget who sent me there. And I've been on the Appropriations Committee for a couple of decades now. Laurie mentioned some of the focus that I've had on U of L. But to fast forward to the present, the very basic business of funding the government has become very controversial in my party. And in fact, I was the only Republican in the Kentucky delegation who actually voted for the omnibus appropriation bill that you read about back in December. It's certainly not ideal to have all of the appropriation bills balled up into one big bill. I don't advocate that, but I'm not the majority leader of the Senate anymore. I've been the majority leader. I've been the minority leader. Majority is better. But because of the Democratic majority, it ended up all getting put into one big package. So at that point, you have a choice. you either go into a period of continuing resolutions, which is Washington speak for basically punting all of the decisions into kind of a vacuum, and you end up in endless fights, or you accept the reality of where you are. And built into a number of these bills that ended up in the omnibus were things that I thought were important for this university. And so I wanted to focus on, we're here today to focus obviously on that part of it. And I'm happy to be here with Dr. Gardner, Dr. Carrick again, in addition to my good friend Lori Gonzalez. So in this large bill that I just described, there is new funding for new resources for NSA's Cyber Workforce Training Initiative, which Dr. Carrick is going to talk about. That program has already invested millions of dollars to support educational program at U of L, and they're likely to get more in the future. So they're training people in this highly important area of cybersecurity that we're all dealing with, both in the private sector and in the government sector. These days, it's the new reality of where we are. Kentucky's university system is at the center of our country's cybersecurity field, and I've tried to help them get there. That doesn't just help prepare our students with a 21st century skill set, it also benefits our economy and strengthens our national security. So in my other job as the senator from Kentucky, I've focused on this and tried to use the clout that I have on the committee to benefit this program. Just to mention a couple of other things, millions to support U of L's biocontainment laboratory, which is a nationwide leader in cutting-edge biosafety research, a different part of the university. Millions to support research at U of L in partnership with Kentucky's North American Stainless, a company up the river, to develop new construction technologies. And then briefly moving beyond U of L, but to other things in this community, $35 million to the new Robley Rex VA Medical Center here in Louisville, which we're finally, after all of these years, in the process of building. $43 million for the American Printing House for the Blind here in Louisville, which is a unique and important facility, unique in the whole country. And of course, down at Fort Knox, trying to do everything we can to get them in a position to do what they do best. So that pretty well sums it up. Now, the specifics of what we're here to highlight today, I want to call on to folks here to the left to underscore exactly what this funding is going to do to strengthen America's ability to deal with cybersecurity and to train the people who are going to be really good at this and are going to be hired by others. So.
Thank you. Good morning. Technology is an increasingly integral part of all of our lives. Everybody has a smartphone in their pocket right now. If you want to buy a new refrigerator at the local department store, that's going to be connected to the internet, as is your washing machine. In fact, internet-connected refrigerators have solved crimes in the U.S., but they come with risks and costs as well. The same is true for today's manufacturing equipment. Manufacturing is a major sector of our economy. It's true for medical equipment. If you are sick or in the hospital and connected to life-saving equipment, that is also connected to the internet, and that brings up the risk in all of our sectors of the economy to cyber attacks, and the need for cybersecurity becomes very, very evident. Cyber attacks cost billions to the U.S. economy, and they actually impact lives through, for example, taking down equipment in hospitals and things like that. And they also affect our national security because our defense supply chain relies on a secure manufacturing base across the country. A strong cybersecurity and workforce is the most important way that we get there, that we get the protections we need to secure businesses, to secure critical infrastructure like energy systems, water systems, all across the Commonwealth, all across the nation. You've heard about a lot of layoffs in the tech sector. Microsoft announced yesterday 10,000 jobs. They were laying off 10,000 jobs, and yet in Kentucky today, there's on the order of 4,000 open jobs for cybersecurity professionals. Across the country, that number is more than 1 million open jobs in the cybersecurity field. So we still have a critical national shortage of workforce. One of the reasons that we're here meeting today in University of Louisville's new Center for Engaged Learning is just that. It's not by coincidence. It's because U of L is committed to developing the workforce of tomorrow, and we really need that in the cybersecurity field. As a top research institution, we're proud to lead this charge across the state of Kentucky and across the nation in our unparalleled research in cybersecurity, training, academic programs, and we appreciate Senator McConnell's support in enabling us to do that, and the National Security Agency as well. So I will turn the podium over to Dr. Sharon Carrick. She's the Assistant Vice President. She leads the University of Louisville Digital Transformation Center, and she'll talk about the way that U of L and the work of her center is leveraging the support of Senator McConnell and the National Security Agency and having a significant national impact on training workforce for tomorrow's cybersecurity needs. Dr. Carrick.
And thank you, Senator McConnell, because what has happened in the last 2 to 3 years is that through the Digital Transformation Center here at the University of Louisville, which I encourage people to be able to go to our link, is that we've been able to provide actually free training for cybersecurity through that link. And then we still have scholarships left for people to get free cybersecurity training. And we've developed all kinds of modules at every level, small bite-sized modules. And this helps corporations and individuals at all different types of levels to get even an entry level and a mid-level and expertise level. And again, scholarships, 100% scholarships are still available to utilize that for workforce development. Those modules, even for 1 year, are available through a free download. And again, because of this funding that we've had, that has enabled our workforce for us to partner with other members or other universities and colleges, not only throughout the state of Kentucky, but also throughout the region. And that has now laid the groundwork for the potential to utilize and leverage now all these resources that we have built. And these are forensic modules, these are cryptology modules, these are Internet of Things modules, these are blockchain modules, all relating to cybersecurity at all levels. And the next iteration that we've done and just started to do is now train the trainers so that we have instructors that we can have at various colleges and universities so that their curriculum is then enabled, or instructors in different communities, so that we have that multiplier effect, because it is in every entity that cybersecurity is critical. And through that, we've seen even just the first 15 train the trainers that we've put through, and everyone can do the math, and you think about 15 trainers or 20 trainers that do even a minimum of 2 classes or 3 classes with 30 students each, or 30 community members, or even just a workshop in 1 year. The multiplier is significant. And so we are building a national hub or a national coalition of different entities for us to then become a national train the trainer, whereby we can have the resources and leverage tax-paying dollars, that we can leverage all the resources that different universities and colleges have had, where we have applied learning and we have the mechanics of cyber gyms, whereby we have applied learning. And in these cyber gyms, we set up these mock different attacks so that participants can see. And if any of you have been in those lockup rooms, you know, it's sort of a gaming type of scenario, but it's sort of fun for us too, because then we can set up different types of of cyber attacks within those rooms or in those cyber gyms to really test the participants' knowledge and understanding and competencies about how cyber attacks work. So sometimes I think we have to hire reforming criminals to think through how these things work in the cyber gyms. So it has been just an honor, and colleagues that have we've worked with throughout the Kentucky universities and community colleges and corporations have been involved in these projects to give us even case scenarios that they have utilized, especially in logistics and hospital systems in major corporations, and I won't name them because they've been attacked, and they've given us these case studies and scenarios, kind of their worst nightmares, and then we've modeled those in the gyms. And so it's really, truly, a triangulation of partnership from not only universities, community partners, and feet on the street to build these type of applied learning experiences for people to be able to go through a workforce experience and garner these workforce certificates. We also have embedded, because we have these exciting partnerships with IBM, Microsoft, and Google, where the students actually, or the participants, go through the certificate, and while they're doing that, they also gain badges, trophies, and micro credentials from these industry leaders in technology. So they not only get a certificate in cybersecurity, but they also get a Microsoft badge or trophy or certificate. So they're, again, building their credentialing as well as, again, applied knowledge and expertise and competencies, which are, again, critical for us to build our workforce throughout the nation. So again, just honored and excited, and building this kind of hopeful national center where we can again leverage the resources that we've been given and utilize, also leverage resources across the state and the country to build more talent and skill set that can serve and build the competitive nature of the United States to not only be reactive but proactive in this, and also be a leader in cybersecurity. With that said, I'll turn it back over to Dr. Gonzalez. Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Sharon. That concludes our formal program. If there's any questions from the media on this topic, on cybersecurity, we can take those from the podium. If there are questions on other topics, please see one of the PR people in the room, and we'll try to get you taken care of afterwards. But any questions on cybersecurity?
When can the university expect to see these funds?
So the omnibus was just passed in December, late December, and so they have to be funneled through the National Security Agency. So they're probably 6 months or 9 months or some kind of time frame like that.
Sometime this year, though.
We have had two tranches of money so far, and expect a third through similar appropriations in previous years, FY 20, 21, and 22, and that has, I think the number is about 6.8 million that has been supported this program and developed all these amazing credentialing programs that Sharon had talked about. So we did receive previous funding through a similar mechanism.
You mentioned the first two, I think it was 6 million and 3 million. This was obviously a lot bigger. Do you have specifics for what exactly this is going to go toward?
Do you want to?
Sure.
So the specifics will be, again, partnering with other universities where we can pay stipends to train the trainers, and they could be any type of trainers, doesn't necessarily have to be faculty, because we do have a shortage in that area of a high-level expertise for them to be able to teach. So what we hope to do is incorporate and include other universities and colleges, if you will, from all different types of entities to train them. And we already have the curriculum and the materials, and we already have the platforms and the hardware and the gyms, the cyber gyms, and then use as scholarships or partial scholarships for people to go and build the next level if they're not at the highest level, or again, start to proliferate more at the entry level, because every one of us, even sitting in this room, needs to have some exposure to what does cybersecurity look like, even at an entry level. So we see it as, workshops, simple, just awareness campaigns, and that's how some of the money will be spent. And then the next will be what are some other enhancements that we can do for the cyber gyms and building out the level of sophistication from the IoT devices, Internet of Things devices, as well as the artificial intelligence devices and things that we have to continue to research and build out some of that technology, analytics technology, some of those pieces for the research piece, and then scholarship, and then the Train the Trainer National Center, recruiting, train the trainers, and then building out that portal so that those common resources and links can be available for those folks to be able to come in and utilize. And again, I'll just encourage and support that right now, if you go to louisville.edu and type in Digital Transformation Center, there is a whole barrage of free resources for you to use right now, and even apply for simple free scholarship to go through the cybersecurity training right now at even entry level, because we have some of this other funding that we're using 100% for the scholarships. Thank you.
How you prioritize the scholarships?
Yeah, the scholarships per the NSA guidelines right now is military veterans. And when I say healthcare industry, that doesn't mean just medical, but any person that's, emergency first responders, or anyone that touches any kind of healthcare, if they're logistics, if they're transporting medical supplies, or if they're in logistics supply chain, any of those entities can apply, and that's kind of the first come first serve from that. But I encourage you to apply, because we also get funding, and we look for funding for other scholarships for other folks. So I won't say no one gets turned away, but when somebody applies, we do our best. We work really hard to try to make sure that no one does get turned away, and we're proud to try to continue that so that people don't get turned away. And we can do it in a small modular format if it's just an entry level, or we can do it the expansive format if you are a professional and you need it at the highest level, and you want to get some of the artificial intelligence certificates and or micro credentials. We have it at that level as well. Thank you. Did I address the question?
Yes.
Thank you.
And then a question for Leader McConnell as well. $20 million will go a long way compared to $6 million. How important was it to secure these funds for your hometown university?
Well, I think we've just heard that answer to that question.
But from your efforts, why was it so important for you?
Well, look, I think doing everything we can for our universities is important, and I've always tried to focus on our state universities, in particular this one for obvious reasons, and also UK as well. And having really good universities is really integral to economic growth. And I think we have at least two who could hit the higher level, and we have some great regional universities as well. But throughout my tenure in the Senate, I, through the appropriations process, have focused on higher education.
Anyone else on cybersecurity?
Question for Sharon or Kevin. On the scholarship side, how many scholarships are we looking at? Are they full or partial? Just a little breakdown
Do I
on
need to go up
Yes.
there?
Yeah.
They can be either or. And so to answer that question, it really depends, if they're partial scholarships, it's X amount. But we probably have approximately, $100,000, in that range of, pool of money. And some of the modules, are small, like $100 type modules. And that's also it's online, but it's instructor led. So we have success coaches, that work with the students online and homework and the applied learning as well. So it's really not a Romco set it and forget it type online do it yourself. It's, we really want that high level that we're used to here at the University of Louisville to learn that. But go ahead with the additional question.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out what percentage of like the overall, the 20 million will the scholarship.
Oh, for the next batch. Yeah. Honestly, we've just got this, news, and we'll have to, figure out how that would be. But, we are, even in the first batch, it was significant to us, that we appropriate or managed at least 35% was going to be in that first batch, even in that money, and that our partners, even out of that money, was significant, from the community college system here in Kentucky and the other universities here in Kentucky. The community colleges, we gave $1 million for their participation as well. So we were really trying to, be a, fiscally responsible throughout Kentucky to try to pull those things together. So I think that's, what we have to really consider is, everyone wants to thrive and survive, but building that coalition means that we have to, help them financially, have some skin in the game as well. And so we've been very cognizant about that and have thought very carefully about that as well.
When do you think is a reasonable timeline to have, figure out, Kevin said it would be about 6 months till the money comes in. When is a reasonable time to have a more detailed description of the allocation of the 20 million?
Well, from their perspective, that would be in the 7th month. No, just kidding. No, that would be 6 months, 1 week. Yes, thank you.
I'll just add that these are competitive funds, and so University of Louisville is competitive on a national level to receive these funds. And so that requires writing a competitive proposal that goes to NSA and gets reviewed well and so forth. So all of that to say that when that money does come to NSA, it'll be put out to bid essentially, and then there's a competition for those funds. And so we've competed successfully for those. And so the answer to that question is about putting together a really competitive proposal that includes those scholarships, that includes additional development of curricula that's been a big part of the focus in the last couple of years.
So U of L will be competing for this money, not necessarily. Isn't that your money?
That's right.
But you've been successful competing in the past.
We've been successful competing in the past. Yeah. But that's the reality today. I don't want to speak about everything that happens in the U.S. Congress, and I'll leave that to Senator McConnell, but that's the reality. Yep.
Anyone else?
Could you describe some specific jobs that this will fill, that these students coming out of these programs will fill?
Yeah, so throughout organizations, not just from a technology perspective, but initiated in technology, even security goes even physically, looking at, gaps. I won't mention any company names, but even looking where there's a physical element of where servers are. So even, IT and technology where I can just pick up a server or a laptop, or even log into someone's laptop. I won't even tell you how many times I go in a company, and I actually have done this before where I will see someone's laptop up and I will type a message to them and to myself saying, I could have, taken anything I wanted, from your laptop, and I'm just giving you a warning. But those jobs are really even at the basic level of just, break fix, because at break fix level, we learn some of those basic things that go wrong when a system, gets a black screen, or what we've called, some of you may have gotten, I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand. So we have at the break fix level, those jobs that deal with cybersecurity. Then at the mid level, also those jobs that then look at, again, software systems, and that we look at these audit trails, a listing of, the directories of, inside the systems where there are not, you've heard of Trojans, there's not the right kind of file matches that have to be audited and looked at. And then at the highest level, we're learning about some of these other things that can actually be in the IoT, these new devices and or hardware equipment. You think about manufacturers, that now we can, because the computers are now inside, the refrigerator, they're inside, the phone, they're inside this, that, the other. And so now, those are a little higher level. How can I learn to send out a signal and evaluate all of those and then send corrective action or ping all of those people's device in my company that are utilizing that and sending back and forth information. And so at the higher level, more sophisticated security type of jobs. So they may not be identified just as security officers, and so you'll see that from a slim level, but even at the federal level, you'll see a lot of them. But again, in Kentucky, I think there's 13,000, 16,000, something of that nature, that do identify some form of cybersecurity level of expertise and knowledge. Did I answer the question? Yeah, thank you. And I apologize. I'm going to take a little quick one. I do want to recognize Professor LaSavio and some of my other colleagues. I know you all don't want to hear this, but Dr. Andrew Wright at the Business School and Dr. Adele Almagrabi from the Speed Engineering School and Dr. Sun with College of Education. That is really the core team at the University of Louisville has made significant, that is the team really here, not me. It's really that team that has made significant across the nation and actually globally as well. We've been invited to many countries to talk about we don't tell the secret recipe, of course, because we are from Kentucky. But we do talk about some of the initiatives and the strategy. And to your point about, even though this is competitive, we've been very innovative about doing this train the trainer, and what the portal will be, again, leveraging other coalitions that NSA has put together or through the country to help them see how they're leveraging those dollars. And we've been very strategic about that and very passionate about what else can we do. We even already have the only game on Android and Apple. It's already functional right now. That's free download, and it's a little cybersecurity gaming. And we have developed, just on our own in classes and things, a new virtual reality pilot game that we're pretty excited about. Just again for fun and research type purposes as well. But I think there was another question, and I don't want to hold us up.
Well, just a quick comment, Dr. Carrick. What you've done is unique in the United States, isn't it? As well as probably the rest of the world.
Well, we continue to look at, and again, we always want to be from an entrepreneurial standpoint and innovative standpoint. And again, our students and our community are driving these things, I won't say one step ahead, but, just a little bit ahead, and also modeling what's the best of the best, and so that's kind of been our premise with the Digital Transformation Center, and I'm really proud of, even before the pandemic, that the University of Louisville really supported that we had this website up that had all these free credentials and micro credentials for the whole community. And so and that was in 2020 before the pandemic, where people could go in and get a Microsoft, credential or a Google Analytics credential free, and again, we're looking at what are pathways, but we really want to enable people to utilize, pathways to college, and what are ways that we can, help encourage, lifelong learning and again, applied learning through the Center for Engaged Learning. So absolutely, and again, be unique in that fashion to be leaders. And again, this national certification center, if you will, for cybersecurity will be unique because there's a shortage at the highest end, And so one person, these small handful of cybersecurity experts, that have this high level expertise is a shortage too.
Thanks, Sharon. Thank you all for being here today.
Let me just mention one final thing on this subject. Those of you who cover politics may recall that I've said from time to time I was the only one of the four leaders who was not from New York or California. That's still true now that we have new Democratic leadership in the House. But it's interesting to note that both the Senate Majority Leader and the House Minority Leader are from the same neighborhood, Brooklyn. So I try to look out for Middle America, and in particular, the most important state in Middle America, which is the one I represent. Thank you. How are we going to set up?
We're gonna beat them on the backside.
Do you have the other memory card I gave you? It's in my pocket. Sorry.
Never mind. Thank you. Okay, so.
Check. Good.
Good. Ryan, would you say something clever really quick? I can't think of anything.
I've nothing clever to say.
Yep, there I go. Okay, now all the stuff you really want to talk about. Who'd like to lead off? Everybody ready?
Ready.
All right.
Leader McConnell, the borrowing limit today is expected to hit. Just your reaction, what's taking place in Washington now?
Yeah, periodically the debt ceiling has to be lifted, and it's always a rather contentious effort. In the end, I think the important thing to remember is that America must never default on its debt. It never has and never will. But we'll end up in some kind of negotiation with the administration over what are the circumstances or conditions under which the debt's going to be raised.
At what point, if at all, does the American public need to worry about any kind of collapse?
I think what the Secretary of the Treasury said today, she's beginning to use what they call extraordinary measures. I think this will have to be dealt with sometime in the first half of 2023.
Should we be concerned about a financial crisis?
No, I would not be concerned about a financial crisis.
Senator McConnell, something that didn't get direct funding in the omnibus was funds for Louisville's aging flood protection infrastructure. I was wondering if that's something that's on your priority list to push for this year.
Well, we did a major transportation bill, as you know. In fact, if I may brag a little bit, there would not have been an infrastructure bill but for my decision to participate in that. In addition to the Brent Spence Bridge, which got all the attention, it's about $6 billion for roads and bridges and broadband infrastructure of all kinds. Is going down to the Kentucky state government, $6 billion over the next 5 years. There'll be a lot of money coming out of Frankfurt, out of that program, to address all kinds of infrastructure deterioration.
Another priority for Congress this year is going to be doing the next iteration of the Farm Bill. I know you were really involved in pushing for different things in the 2014 and 2018 Farm Bills. What, if any, priorities will you be pushing for in the new one?
Well, we'll be looking at Kentucky agriculture. Hemp was the big new thing in the previous Farm Bill. So far, it's not worked out like we had hoped. It's had a lot of challenges related to difficulty of getting guidance out of the Food and Drug Administration. So we'll see what the priorities are for Kentucky agriculture. The Kentucky Farm Bureau does a good job of making sure we know exactly what the priorities are. But yeah, it's a Farm Bill year. I've been on the Agriculture Committee the entire time I've been in the Senate. Always take a special interest in making sure Kentucky farmers turn out well in it.
Senator, should the Kentucky legislature legalize medical cannabis or sports betting this year?
I'm going to let them figure out those issues.
What's your confidence level on the Republican leader in the House?
Oh, I think Speaker McCarthy is going to do just fine. It certainly was quite an adventure watching him get there, but I think things will settle down in the House and he'll be just fine.
Okay, everybody, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Oh my gosh, my goodness, sorry.
Oh, is that what you were trying to tell me?
That's what I was trying to hold
That it
to the
was
bottom,
loose?
yeah.
Okay.
I made it all the way through it.
Thank you. Is that the right one?
Yes.
My arm's not that long. I appreciate
No,
the
I
help.